The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for giving the floor, and I also want to thank you, Relup and Anna, you and State Environmental Service for organizing that event here and choosing Latvia as a kind of experience sharing place for countries. And I see there are hundreds of participants connected and from countries which are thinking and preparing or are about to introduce the system. So in the beginning, bit again to like Romania, I calculated we are roughly 10 times smaller than Romania in all aspects. So 500 million of containers is by units included into the deposit system. Population 1.9, a bit less. Unfortunately, shrinking at the moment. Infrastructure, yeah, those 1.4 thousand collection points plus almost 600 HoReCa points. But HoReCa points are not for, you cannot go from the street and return in a HoReCa point. But you can drink in a bar or in a restaurant and leave the containers there. And we have more than 400 agreements with retailers, so legal persons, more than 300 producers. And at the moment, we are having 8,500 EN codes or unique products in the deposit system. We just heard in Denmark there are already 55,000. So, but actually that number is increasing each week, even each day. So we expect that by next year we will go over 10,000. Yeah, here already Laura told about the supervision. I just one thing to mention that we are, I think, the only deposit country where the regulator or utilities, public utilities commission is approving industry fees. So that's always approved by a specific process by the regulator, ensuring and auditing that all calculations made by operator are correct, and most importantly is that this non-profit principle is followed, and also the principle of not subsidizing across the materials, which is important because we know different materials as different economics. If we look to the material scene of Latvia, that's from the very beginning of the system till 1st of September data, percentage of materials being put to the market. And we see that we have comparatively high glass share, one-way glass or recyclable glass, together with refillables, it makes 25%. And PET, a bit less than half, and other scans. At the moment, we still cannot judge about the dynamics in the packaging structure, so too less experience. Probably next year we will observe some trends. As you already heard, the trend is that aluminium packaging is slowly but gaining. But if we go to the results, so at the moment, so far, more than 1 billion packages collected. We hit that mark in the end of August. That's average per 280 per one habitant of Latvia. The first calendar year, like the first operations year, we reached 63%. In our plan, initially, we were aiming to the 70%. We reached less, and you see the starting period was quite slow, and it mainly was because of the relatively long transition period. We had 6 months. So the packages starting from 1st of February till 1st of August, it was possible to buy the same packaging, sometimes with code, with the deposit mark and without deposit mark. And I will comment on that a bit later. if we see what's this year's results so far, then at the moment the current return rate for this year is 77. However, we expect that by the end of the year we go over 80% in average. And it's quite natural because normally in the deposit system, the first half of year there is lower return rate, and then second half of the year the return rate is increasing. Because, for example, if we look separately to the July, the return rate was almost 100%, meaning that containers sold in June, which is also our biggest national holiday, the summer solstice, they are returning months after. And we will most probably will continue to experience high return rates also for September, October. If we look to the amount of materials collected, and I think that's the most important thing, if we pile all together what we have collected and sent for recycling or refilling, then we're getting 50,000 tons, which for Latvia is a huge. Of course, 50,000 tons, sometimes hard to imagine, is it big or not, but if we put it on kind of cover the land area, then for the Latvians who know, obviously Latvians know Saldus, or hopefully, and that's one city of Saldus. Those who don't know what the Saldus is probably know what the Central Park in New York is. So it's roughly 3 Central Parks covered with a dense cover of packaging. So that's what we collected, and all material was sent for recycling. Also interesting, there are differences in up to the date for this year recycling collection rates per unit per different type of material. And here we see that among the leaders are refillables, like 84, 86%. We have 2 types of refillables. I will go into the detail about that. And then we can also see that there is comparatively low aluminium collection rate if we compare to the same PET material. And then again, here is a country specifics, because we have a different excise tax within our neighbors in Estonia and also Finland, and there are significant cross-border trade, and we estimated that at least 20 million of cans are going away from the Latvia and actually never returning. So that's for can is making roughly 10%. So if normalized by that, we see that the can actual return rate is very comparable with PET, which is the same what happens in other countries. Then again, it's interesting, since deposit systems, one of the characteristics is accountability. We wonderfully know each deposit system operator, if it's organized accounting by code, knows exactly each code, how many units were put to the market and how many units return. That's accountability gives a trust, and we can also make interesting statistics. We see that at the moment, like water is returning, in fact, up to the 92% already. Then lemonade, cider, beer, I'm sure till the end of the year, beer will go up to the 20%, because beer is just the season ended, so a lot of containers are still at the consumer homes. And then those light blue are the new scope or this year's amendment, what we already heard. And obviously they had their own transition period, again 6 months. Here the results are less, and here you also see that the syrups, and you probably can imagine that for the consumption cycle of the syrup is much longer than, for example, for a bottle of beer. You're drinking a bottle of beer in a few minutes, but a bottle of syrup is probably longing 1 year, especially if it's not the right one. And now about glass and refillables, a bit going into the specific. Altogether, 27% of deposit packaging is glass so far. And glass consists of the 3 groups. 15% is making recyclable glass, no, sorry, 33, it's like 1/3 is recyclable glass, meaning that glass we are breaking into the cullets and sending for recyclers for remelting. So all other part is breaking into two, and there are two types of refillables. One we call standard refillable bottle or BBH bottle or universal bottle, which you will see what is the difference, but the main thing is that standardized between several or a number of breweries. And then there is individual design bottles, which means that that design or shape of the bottle belongs to the certain brewery, and nobody else can use that. And in all, we have 13 shapes of that type of individual bottles. And if we look to the both refillable part, then it means 95 million of those bottles so far have been returned for refilling, or in other words, we kind of saved 30,000 tons for kind of remelting and reusing. So a lot of energy has been saved, and we yesterday just visited one of the breweries which is mainly using the refillable bottles, and they said that before the deposit system, what they've got back is their own forces with decentralized, not deposit system, but kind of fragmented way of returning empties was 50%. Currently, they're getting back 90%. A bit more about standard refillable bottle, and we counted that we have two types, the same shape, but transparent and brown. And currently, we counted 28 breweries, different companies are using that. There are not all you can see, but you can see a number of them, starting from the big international breweries, ending up with small craft breweries. And the idea is that in order to put into the market or fill your product into the standardized refillable bottle, you don't need compulsory to have washing line. If you don't have, you still can benefit from using refillable bottle. But in that case, you still have obligation. We are returning as an operator. We are returning back the bottle, and producer, the brewery, has the responsibility to sell that bottle to another company in the free market. We don't know even for what price they're selling, but that should be refilled. It cannot be sold for recycling, for breaking into the cullets. And of course, for those breweries, it means getting back some significant part of the costs. And as we yesterday heard, it can be even the level or even a bit more than the industry fee paid for the refillables. So there is also economic background, not only environmental effect of refilling for Latvia. And now even in more details, because I'm sure how are responsibilities organized in refillable return. First of all, of course, producers sell the product to the retailer who pays the product price together with the deposit fee. It's like for all kind of packages. Same time, producers pay to operator, and here starts the difference. For universal bottle, everything happens like for single-use packages. Breweries are paying to the operator industry fee plus deposit fee, but for individual design bottles, they're paying just industry fee, deposit fee, they're organizing and dealing themselves. Of course, when the consumer is buying the product, is paying deposit fee, when returning empties, getting back. And when for a standardized bottle, DIO is responsible for collection from the retailers. And that's the main difference, because as you already have heard, that there are a lot of countries having refillables, but mainly it's organized so that if there is a refillable, then breweries are responsible for collecting. But then, to be honest, it's of mostly big players having logistic networks and logistic chains, which are then able to collect from all points. And then in our case, here comes that individual design, And if you want to put into the market as a producer individual shaped bottle, the one about what the marketing departments are so keen to fight and saying that in order to increase sales, we need a new shape of the bottle, then you have to take responsibility to collect from all 1,400 collection points. And in that case, the retail handling fee and deposit fee is being returned by brewery directly to the retailers. Now a bit about lessons learned from our implementation period, which might be useful for new countries. Retailers, as Latvia, of course, is utilizing the back-to-retail model, and participation of retailers, that's key, obviously. And here I also want to, what I understood after the implementation of deposit system, that is, at least in Latvia, this is, and so far, is one of the first projects when you should differ. The businesses should start act in opposite of just before doing or making themselves sustainable, green on the corporate presentations, marketing campaigns, because that's easy. You can, actually it's called greenwashing, in other words. But at this moment, with the deposit system, like starting from producers, they needed to invest, needed to think, change labels, change codes, then retailers who are doing enormous part of the job, collecting, preparing places for RVMs. Okay, in Latvia, deposit system operator is providing RVMs, but still there is a lot of things to do for retailers to organize the processes, to free up space, to hire new employees. And that's a real action. You cannot just put on your presentations that you are green. And end of the day, also we, as a consumers, we need to change, because now there is a new duty. We can not throw anymore in the curbside or containers. We need to bring them to the RVM and get the money. So all those three stakeholders, let's say it, or involved parties need to adapt and need to change. And that's why also we see who are ready to do it, and there are some groups which are still resisting, because yeah, I can say that it's more easy to be green on presentations. And speaking about retailers, and also great majority of retailers also has understood that it's not just an extra duty, but it is also a competitive advantage. It's in the fight for consumer. We did a research earlier this year, and 24% of the population admitted that the choice of the everyday shopping is determined by how well is functioning the RVMs in the particular location. So meaning if it's serviced bad, so it's often not accessible, it's full, not cleaned, they can decide to go elsewhere. Continuing lessons learned, support from government and authorities. Laura mentioned it very well with that example of changing the regulations for transportation. I'm completely sure that you definitely will discover a few months before the launch of the system some overlaps, some gaps in legislation, some contradictions. And then you need support from authorities, support from government to be very flexible, to push through some changes in legislative acts, which otherwise would probably take half a year. But as we heard this morning from Romania, they have 62 nights and days as well, of course, to do something. So it's a good example of political will. Transition period. I'm quite often asked from other countries, what would be the ideal transition period after what we have experienced? And I would say it should be reasonable. It should be a transition period, but it should be at the same time short as possible. And we came to the conclusion that 1 month for production and 4 months for the retailers. Because it's also influencing, it creating a lot of mess for consumers, and consumers might think that it will be for 100 years, so that it always be some packages without deposit mark and some packages with. Anti-fraud measures on RVMs, it's a must, especially from very, very beginning. And sometimes I think new countries can easily fall into the trap that can enjoy if that anti-fraud measures are not activated or not present or not required, that first year can enjoy a very good recycling rates, which is good, everybody's happy, but then it can end up with financial problems because they can go over 100%. And the final deposit sign must be significantly different from the neighboring countries. We fell into that trap because that one in the middle is Estonian sign, to the right is our sign, and for us initially, for all the team, it seemed it's a lot different, but not for consumers. They were bringing those, and in Latvia, you already, before the deposit system, you could buy bottles with Estonian sign. And then you can imagine that thousands of consumers were bringing back those bottles in the transition period and was saying that those stupid RVMs are not working because they are being rejected. And also work with the producers and importers, because suddenly a few things which were never been important before the deposit system now are extremely important. Like, for example, faulty labels, like in this example, real time. It's overlapped, so partially that IAN code is covered. That package will never be accepted by RVM. Or shape variations, especially about importers. In those cases, the same IAN code, but suddenly producer somewhere abroad, not knowing about the deposit system, has decided to change the shape. And since the RVM is controlling the shape correspondence to the IAN code, those packages are not accepted. It was never been important, so importer could afford not to be interested about that. But shape changed, so what a big deal. But suddenly it's a big deal. And at the end of the presentation about society, I think marketing communication and dealing with society, it's a different topic requiring a few hours to tell. But a year ago, after 8 months of operation, 71% of the population were using system. That's the segment we see, which are the most active system users. And it's very important that if initially, because people need not only, of course, the main motivation is 10 euro cents. It's financial motivation, it's strong, and that's how the deposit systems are working. But now we can starting from end of last year, and especially this year, we can feel, following the discussions into the social network, that there has been emerged another motivator. Because people noted that environment is becoming cleaner, and if somebody is starting some discussion, that stupid deposit system, why I need to bring empty, stand into the queue, then very quickly the society, other commentators are kind of suppressing the discussion. You need to do, because as we can see all now, it has become much, much cleaner. And the last thing, we launched the donation option in last year, December, and so far we have gathered 250,000 of deposit fees as a donation, meaning that consumers are donating the deposit fees. That's roughly 1% of the all deposit fee circulating. Yeah, thank you very much.